Okay. So it looks like we're live.
Alrighty.
Hey everybody. So this is we call this what dainty thoughts, and of course that's not my name. That's the guest beside me. That's dainty analysis. I know him as Craig, and then we obviously used to record. For the Fighting Roundtable, which is his podcast. And if you're watching from his YouTube channel, this is how we're doing it. We're connecting to all different platforms on StreamYard. And so, obviously, Dainty Analysis, thank you so much for doing this with me and doing this on the platform. I know this is the first time for you. So,
Yeah.
why don't you introduce yourself to the Twitter and YouTube world, and then we'll get started on our
Uh,
topic today.
Alrighty. My name is Danty Analysis. I am a freelance MMA writer. I used to write for MMA Motion, and I do interviews with UFC fighters, Bellator fighters, any kind of fighter. And so right now, I'm just getting back into it, writing up stuff, theories for whatever's happening in the fighting world at large. And I like looking at different kinds of combat organizations from wrestling, taekwondo, all that stuff.
I know you're obviously a jujitsu head. I know we literally talked about this like 2 seconds before we started recording live that you actually practice jujitsu. I know things are a little bit different because of COVID. There's I guess new developments, new safety precautions, and all of that. So for Dainty, like whenever I knew him or whenever we recorded, I just remember you always had like a very philosophical mindset, which I love because not everybody like talks about it, and that's a really great niche. So as you can see on the ticker below, we are going to talk about the money fight era. And before that, I do want to give a shout out to a few sponsors, just because especially for anybody who trains. Still, if you're going back to the gym, you're going back to jiu-jitsu class, you're doing Muay Thai, kickboxing, all that. This is the perfect relief cream for you. RX Hemp has some premium CBD creams, natural pain relief. We have both the warm and cool therapy creams, and it's on sale right now for $39.99. You actually save about $40, and if you sign up and you use the promo code RX Hemp USN, you can get 10% off your order on top of the $39.99. So, like I said, anybody who trains just like Dainty over here, or you're athletic, you work out a lot, you need that recovery cream the next day. This one works wonders. So that's one of the first sponsors I wanted to talk about. The second one is I know that we have fight nights like literally every weekend, and I know that a
Mhm.
lot of people love to bet on fights, especially like UFC mostly, being consistent every single week. So pretty much the sports network that I work for, Unwrapped Source, we just partnered up with a really big betting site. That's right, mybookie.ag. And this is a really good deal, everybody. If you bet consistently, you can use the promo code USN100 and they will double up on your first deposit. I mean, you can't get more exciting than that. So please check out mybookie.ag. Use the promo code USN100 so you can double up on your deposit and you can start, gambling away, degenerates. So there you go. That was my little spiel. But basically, we're gonna go back to the topic at hand. Like I said, we're gonna talk about the money fight era, and I know that Dainty Analysis is the mastermind behind our layout for the different topics today. It might not be like we obviously do talk about fights, we obviously talk about predictions, but I know one thing that I do love talking to you about are the theories behind a
Mhm.
lot of the martial arts. Like it can literally stem from everything, but I'm glad you brought up the money fight era because it's so goddamn popular.
Oh
It's
yeah.
honestly ridiculous. It's a phenomenon, right? So, I mean, I guess my first question before we dive into the first topic is like, why did you want to talk about, this topic, the money fight era? Like, pretty much, that was the topic that you proposed to me for this stream.
Mhm.
So, tell me your reasoning behind that.
Yeah, I was interested because in light of recent events, I always wondered what it will take to shake things up from what we see as the money fight era. Yeah, basically the UFC has basically just single-handedly just rewritten things when it came to MMA, and now they're facing constantly new challenges. But now with this, with the quarantine going on, and now they're doing these things with audienceless fight cards, which we'll get into in the topic. It just
Mhm.
makes me wonder, like, what will become of it? This unfamiliar territory for everyone involved around the world. I mean, what will it do with business decisions, with cultural decisions, all of that?
Yeah, no, I agree with that. It's like a revolution in a way
Mm,
in the world of combat sports. Not
mm,
necessarily a good one. You know, you can argue
mm,
kind of pros and cons with that. We definitely have from the fighting roundtable. So, like I said, anyone who's checking this out from YouTube, obviously you can see the other podcast videos below. And for everybody that's tuning in on Twitter, hello. We are going to talk about something that many people are probably, at least right now, since the last few, I guess what, it looks like the last year, it feels like it's always been about the money fight era. A lot of people, even though they might not say it's money fight era, it really is. If we talk about the whole, we got Connor leaving for the third time. Obviously he I can't go a freaking podcast episode without talking about Connor. It's
mm,
ridiculous like at this point, but it's true. And it's so
mm,
relevant. So obviously, like Danty says, this whole topic like pretty much bleeds into a lot of the either business decisions, opportunities for different fighters, or not opportunities, or even like down pits and the downfalls of that. And so the first subtitle subheading we're going to talk about is pretty much what this says: fighters leaving and retiring from UFC or other promotions, mainly the UFC we're going to concentrate on. So I guess, Dainty, you could take it away since I know that this was a topic that you thought of. So,
mhm.
do you want to talk about it in general, in retrospect? You want to dive into something specifically? Go ahead and take it away, my friend.
Alrighty. So the idea of retiring just to get people talking about what you're doing, it's not exactly a specific exclusive to MMA. I think people who are familiar with football, I'm sure, yeah, you do a lot of football coverage,
Yeah,
right? And yeah,
yeah.
so you were around with the Brett Favre era, the way he was retiring constantly, but
Mm-hmm.
he ends up coming back next season before the controversy happened with him. And so I now with we see with the retirement card being thrown around, it's a way
Mm-hmm.
to get people on them, and mostly the people in charge, in order to either entice them to giving them a new deal, or to get, yeah, to get them what they want with fights. um and now it looks like that's what's going to happen in multiple divisions. Henry Cejudo did it with trying to get a fight with Alexander Volkanovski. Volkanovski recently talked about showing his interest through a meme by taunting Henry Cejudo in the way he does, and Henry Cejudo
Mm-hmm.
joining him. And now we see.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you were there when John Jones was having this tiff with Dana White, talking about there was like some miscommunication through text, where John Jones was
Right.
saying he wasn't talking about any kind of Deontay Wilder money, and that was just coming from Dana White and not him.
Mm-hmm.
But now looks like that's coming to a revolution as John Jones is deciding to come back to heavyweight. We don't know who he's fighting yet, but yeah, we'll see
Yeah.
what's going on there.
So I guess I'll chime in a little bit just because it's kind of I think we as hardcore fans we can see right through the motives and the intentions of a lot of these
Mhm.
fighters. Like you mentioned,
Yeah.
Henry Cejudo. Right after he retires, I swear he said like, it would be cool if I got to fight. It was called. It was, I believe DJ he wanted to fight before, and then now he wanted to fight like some other flyweight, and like so also Davison Figueroa did the same thing. He's not retiring, but
Mhm.
he is trying to call out people from either different promotions or Henry Cejudo himself as well to kind of entice like pretty much what this whole topic is about, a money fight. It really is because flyweights, I guess before it was mostly Demetrius Johnson for the most part in terms of like dominant flyweights, and then after that you just saw him getting disrespected pretty much by the UFC. I'm gonna put it bluntly. I'm sorry, everybody, but pretty much he did. I think that someone who had like what 18 title defenses and
Mhm.
didn't get a pay-per-view slot, or always what main event a fight night. That's He's more than just that. He's obviously a decorated fighter, and eventually, he pretty much like decided to leave and go to one championship in Singapore, Asia. And Dana was like, you know what, that's fine. We'll get Ben Askren, and look how well that turned out.
Yeah.
I mean, there were some money fights that did, obviously stir up a little bit of drama for us fans, but that was very, very short lived.
Mhm.
And then what you see, what Jorge Masvidal, Conor McGregor, John Jones, a lot of these fighters demanding more, threatening to leave the promotion or literally leaving for multiple times, like Conor McGregor, in hopes to get that money fight with Khabib or whoever it is that he's trying to target. Jorge Masvidal, did the same thing, kind of like following the whole John Jones incident. He's like, I'm worth more, man. Like, you should pay me, or I'm just going to like pretty much cause a little bit of chaos and controversy on the internet. And do I agree with that? Like, I wouldn't say like for Jorge Masvidal, maybe I don't agree with that. Like, he's popular, fine, but if you're gonna compare that to someone like Connor, who has pretty much changed the sport. When I say that, I know what a lot of people are gonna say. I mean, like, business wise, UFC is like a freaking household name. When I say MMA, they think UFC, and like, honestly, it's because of Conor McGregor. I don't care if you hate him or not. It's the truth. And basically, like, that happened, and John Jones, being John Jones, being the light heavyweight champion for a long time, a lot of defenses, obviously a few controversies here or there. He's also a household name, but Jorge Masvidal, I'm sorry, like, personally, I just didn't think that was a valid argument. But that's just kind of like my own bias going into it. It's basically like I said in the beginning. We see through the motives of all these
Mhm.
fighters. So
Right.
I mean, do you think this is like a smart, effective way? Do you think it's working? Do you think in the future this is just gonna catch on like wildfire and a lot of people are gonna start doing that? What do you think?
Yeah, I think it'll become a tired card at some point. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
and I think they're at this point just going to be honest about I want to be paid more of my worth. Eddie Alvarez chimed in. I think it was in a tweet or in an interview. He
Mm-hmm.
talked about like supporting these fighters are saying, yes, you're not going to be in this sport for long. Get your money's worth, and that's why he went to one championship to get his contract. Yeah,
Yeah. I mean,
yeah. I mean,
here's my thing. Like, at the end of the day, I'm all for it. Okay, I definitely, like, if we're gonna talk about a whole stream about freaking fighter salary, trust me, we are both all for this whole like fighters should be paid more. Here's the thing: you can say that, but it's all about being effective in what you're gonna do and creating like some type of fighters union in a way headed by people like Connor. We definitely had a podcast about talking about this, and obviously big names like that, like John Jones, Conor McGregor, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That's the only way that obviously a promotion like UFC with a ruthless, leader that he is, Dana White, is going to listen. Because if a lot of these big time, money making superstars are going to like pretty much threaten like their own career for the sake of what's right, then and the UFC honestly is nothing without their fighters. This is probably going to be the most effective way. Now, do I see it happening in the future? I don't know, because it doesn't look like everybody's just talk right now. They're not actually kind of like putting things in motion. Here's the thing: I'm not trying to hate on it. Okay, I'm just saying you have to do more if you really want. So more money, more opportunities, more whatever it is from the promotion. You know, Dana's not going to budge unless you literally make the loudest noise, in my opinion. But that's just me. I'm an action kind of girl, So like talk about it is one thing, acting on it and actually making a change is another. So that's just kind of my whole thing. What about? Do you think like? Do you agree with me? Do you think maybe I'm just like crazy radical, crazy progressive in thinking that way?
No, I mean, for the most part, yeah, fighter, yeah. There's among unless there's like an organizing amongst fighters, that's going to be it's just going to be a stalemate between the fighters and the business. I think that's
Mm-hmm.
how the Ali Act, the Ali,
Ollie, yeah, Ollie, yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah, that's how they provide regulations for rounds. Yeah, now when it comes to compensation, that'll be an even bigger battle, but that'll be something that they'll have to tackle in the future. Now,
Right.
for yeah, and that's why, and I'm glad that you're taking this as seriously as I want to, because yeah, this is about fighters getting paid and also just fulfilling what they need to do.
Hmm.
Uh, Now, for the talk about retiring, I know that who's the person that just went to Bellator? Uh, yeah, he lost
Oh,
to
Corey Anderson.
yeah, Corey Anderson.
I got
Mhm.
it.
Yeah, I mean, just in his first day of doing business with Bellator, he just had this whole like box of swag on his Instagram account. He
Yeah.
recorded the entire thing, and he just showed how well the Bellator is like investing in the fighters that they're bringing in. So I'm
Mhm.
interested to see how he'll pay it forward.
Right.
So
I mean, I think it depends on. Okay, it's very, very individualized. Okay, every single fighter that wants more opportunities, there's different levels to that. Okay,
mhm,
obviously you got the fighters that obviously want the salary change because they think they're worth it, right? Then you have the ones that just want to be a little bit more appreciative, but they're not going to leave the organization just because they just want just a little bit more. Whether it's a little bit more swag, whether it's a little bit more promotion time, which I 100%, oh, I agree with
mhm,
like so much. I honestly, so like I can go on a whole freaking stream talking about the UFC could like utilize their promotions to the max. But anyways,
mhm.
I digress. It's just
Yeah. Starting
like
with
my
the look at their UFC posters. I mean, I've seen like
yeah,
fan
yeah.
posters that are light years better than them.
I know, and it's not. It's just like not even like let's just not talk about the posters and like be specific. In general, there's just so many either prospects or like obviously really liked fighters that have either a cause, a great personality that I feel like the UFC should just. It's so easy to like just you could sell that and like in terms of a marketing business aspect, and it's only going to be good for you. So like
Mhm,
that obviously that's another that's another stream for another time. But I think at the end of the day, it really depends also on the fighters and how much they really want. I always say, and I probably said that on your one of your podcast episodes.
mhm,
It all comes down to how much you really want. How much are you going to be willing to risk, in order to get what you want at the end of the day? And it's a very simple concept, but it also applies heavily when it comes to this because we can't just assume all fighters are going to leave the UFC, if they don't pay them X amount of dollars. We can't say that because every single fighter is different, right?
right.
We can probably assume, though, for most of them, is that you probably a lot of people watching probably agree that a lot of the fighters are not paid their worth, and they should be
Mhm,
paid at least a substantial amount that will provide living costs and all that. Like we can go into like the tragedies and the unfortunate incidences surrounding that topic, but I think like in terms of the basic fundamental aspect of it, that should be the number one priority, at least for many fighters. That's like a basic fundamental priority if you're talking about getting the opportunities that you deserve, right?
mhm,
So that's just yeah, like we can definitely go into this topic like I don't know, hours and hours and hours, breaking down
mhm,
maybe different fighters and what they want. But obviously to Corey Anderson, it looks like he's having definitely a better time in Bellator. He feels more respected. I know Demetrius Johnson feels exactly the same way. Eddie Alvarez exactly the same way, going to one championship, and sometimes maybe things happen like that for a reason. Maybe they're just meant to obviously go and thrive in another promotion. So like I said,
mhm.
we can talk about this like all day, all night. But we're gonna move on to another topic that's called Fight Club interlude, at least according to Dainty Analysis, that's what it's called. So why don't you introduce what do you mean by that, first of all,
Right.
and then we'll get into that topic.
Yeah, it was just the intimacy of the new setting of fight cards in Bellator and the UFC. Yeah, it kind of reminds me just of a fight club where it's just your friends or your cornerman. It's just you and the fighter going at it with each other. Yeah, it just gives. And I talked about the atmosphere it gives. It's kind of like it kind of plays out like theater a little bit more. Yeah, I know it's like with movies, it's like more grandiose and there's like people like chanting your name, but but in theater and plays, yeah, it's much more intimate of the way you can be up and close with the fighter. But
Right,
with
right, yeah.
yeah, but and with this new setting, you get to hear things that you would never be able to unless you had the let's go to this fighter's corner cam. But now you don't even have to. You can like listen to what they're saying like automatically. Yeah,
Mhm.
I remember when I was listening to Sajaru Eubanks' corner. She was talking with her corner when she was near the cage with them. Like, yeah,
Mhm.
I know, I'm fine. I'm just trying to take my leg out. And then you hear the coach like talking her through escaping. Yeah, and there's
Yeah,
funny things like I believe Matt Serra cornered at one point with these audience fight cards. I believe so.
I'm sure
And
he did. I can hear his voice, like me in the back of my head.
mhm, right, exactly. So yeah, you get to see interesting things like that. Yeah, I mean the atmosphere it gives, and a different type of stimuli that you get from watching things like that. I remember with Israel Adesanya, I think he said in a promo video by the UFC that he was at Anderson Silva's card in Australia or in New Zealand, where he was
Yeah.
okay,
Okay.
yeah, and he was talking about how he felt with the crowd like chanting him, watching fight up close like that. It
Yeah.
makes me, yeah. And now with these with this new era of fighting of fighters, and
Mhm.
especially you'll see them in the contender series, and some of them they'll just come up automatically. I'll be interested to see how much that kind of atmosphere will bring into people. Will they will it change why they fight? Because
Mhm.
you see Israel Adesanya, he might not fight just for the crowd. I mean, he is a crowd pleaser, but
Yeah.
and he even said that he fights the way that it will please the crowd, the way he does his mic skills. But with this particular kind of
Like
new,
a
yeah,
setting format. Yeah, I
yeah,
get
this entirely new setting, I think this new kind of stimuli will influence fighters to either just go in there and do your business, you just
you. Yeah.
become like a warrior, or to just get the money by being a prize fighter. So I think you won't
Right.
see more like Conor McGregor like people coming from this interlude if it goes longer than or like half as long as the money fight era.
I mean, I agree. I mean, okay, we're gonna do a stream where we're not gonna mention Connor's name because that's like impossible. I think that's a good challenge for us or for
Yeah,
anybody that's doing a freaking
drinking
MMA
game.
podcast or stream, right? I agree with you in terms of there's a few options that like with no fans. I actually, honestly, I don't miss it right now. I'm not gonna
Mhm.
lie because I love hearing the corners. I love hearing the commentary. You could see the reactions. You could literally hear them, during some type of break or like I remember hearing DC when Conor Esparza was, at her corner during the Michelle Watterson fight. I remember she even alluded to that. She said after during the post fight conference, she said like, "Oh, I heard DC saying that I should be utilizing my rest
Yeah.
like." Like et cetera, et cetera, et
Mm,
cetera.
yeah.
And like, you're not gonna pick up on that if we're just going to go to a live fight the next day, and because everything else, like the whole allure of what a fight night or what a great pay per view is what distracting many people, and so
Mhm.
I think that, like you said, I think a lot of the fighters, I love that probably their focus, a lot of them are probably gonna be like, I'm gonna showcase my skills now, because before you had to like as a fighter you had to I guess in a way market yourself. You really do have to market yourself. That's one of your few jobs instead of just like obviously focusing on your technique, focusing
Mhm.
on your game plan, and really listening into just the cornerman, not just the crowd. I mean,
Mhm.
I'm sure we could again do a whole stream about fighters that probably work really well with the crowd, some that just whatever, you're here to win, and that's all it is, right? And then also
Corey Anderson, for example.
sorry, say that again.
Yeah, Corey Anderson, for example.
Court,
Yeah,
court.
yeah, he was like he was very vocal about not doing crowd pleasing fighting, but he always wants to get the job done. Oh yeah, also with Curtis Blades, in
Right.
his fight with Alexander Volkov,
Yeah.
he tweeted like, if you're going for like a knockout brawl, you're not gonna be pleased with my fight, and he was okay with it.
I don't think there's a honestly, here's my thing. Like, I guess as a hardcore fan, maybe there's a little bit of that like bias there because obviously we love to analyze fights. We love like me and you love to analyze technique. You know, we like
Hmm.
breaking things down to their basic core of actually what was going
Hmm.
on and getting a
Yeah.
finish or whatever it is. At the end of the day, like these fighters, well, I mean, I would think that if they're trying to move up in the rankings, unless you have like a Sean O'Malley
Hmm.
obnoxious like personality, then you're really just going to have to win a
Yeah.
lot, or
Hmm.
you're going to have to become cringe, like Henry Cejudo or Cheeto Vera. Obviously like guys like that or fighters like that in general, they just get the crowd going on Twitter. They get it on Instagram, social media in general. So
Right. That's not exactly true. I mean, Hamzat Shemaev might be the golden exception.
say who is it? Sorry.
Hamzat Shemaev,
Oh yeah.
Boris the Wolf. Yeah, I mean, he does a little bit of trash talking, but I think people like that from him. And I think he combines like the aggressive, mauling, beautiful techniques.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he combines all that with his brash up. I don't know about trash talking, but he does.
Yeah,
I'm here to smash
brashness,
everybody.
brashness. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
like, there's always obviously there are exceptions to every single rule. Let's just be honest. In any type of sport, including MMA, so you always have like those fighters that like it doesn't. They could be the nicest people on earth, and then in the octagon they're just like in your face, obviously smashing. I guess you could say it's hard to like generalize this because, like I said,
Mhm.
at the end of the day, every single fighter is different. Every single fighter has either a different intention. Most probably want to be successful in a way where they want to obviously beat a lot of
Mhm.
fighters. I would think that, but with the money fight era happening, obviously there's a little bit of distraction there because it's like obviously like we could talk about how Jose Aldo did not deserve that title fight, okay,
Mhm.
against Peter Yan. We could talk about how Dominic Cruz can pretty much get any title fight that he wants. We could talk about how Holly Holm, because of her fan base, can get pretty much any title fight that she wants at any single
Mhm.
freaking time. Now, is that fair? Absolutely not. But obviously, what do those names have in common? They are draws, huge
Mhm.
draws. People will watch for them.
Mhm.
Holly Holm, I mean, like it's because she's had a fan base for a long time. Like I
Mhm.
wouldn't say she had like the what's the right word to call it? Like the standout personality of the year. Okay,
Right.
I would
Mhm.
not say that, but a lot of
Yeah.
people love her, right? So
Mhm.
it's gotta be
Yeah, and
something
it's
like
because
that.
of the yeah, and it's because of her skill. Yeah, and I think that's what she banks on mostly. Yeah, and a lot of people are like that as well. That's why with this Fight Club interlude, the brashness won't really make much sense because there's not because half of the excitement from the crowd is completely cut out for quarantine reasons. So
Yeah,
I think
that's
that
true.
this will be the I wouldn't want to put an arrow. That's why I named it interlude because eventually we'll return to capacity, hopefully.
Yeah.
But yeah, yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, but in this interlude, that's not going to cut it. It's not going to move the needle. You're just gonna have to use something else. Fight your heart out. Fight
Yeah,
valiantly, or to fight and get things done.
I would say that. Like one of my favorite examples recently, he just moved down to Bantamweight. I'm talking about Frankie Edgar. I mean, God bless him. I met him in person. He is just like overall just like a stellar guy. And I honestly, after watching that, I'm like, why the hell have you not like moved down sooner? I mean, I get it. Bantamweight, huge goddamn competition. Always stacked to the max. Maybe that could be the reason. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but I just felt like he was so natural in that weight class. But like, here's the thing: he didn't have to trash talk, or he didn't have to do that. He was already a draw for the basic fact that like me and you would love to go and hang out with Frankie Edgar at any given time. He is a great family man. At the same time, besides having like that kind of resume of a background that he has, and guys, he's up there in age. I believe he's almost 40 years old. So
Yeah.
and still getting those fans, and I would think for him it's because like he's developed a huge fan base over and over the years. Like he's a veteran. Obviously we could talk about who else. Dominic Cruz, same thing. Obviously what
Mhm.
you can argue he's maybe the greatest bantamweight of all time. Maybe I'm saying that because I know a lot of people are probably gonna be like, maybe yes, no, maybe so.
I mean,
That So
yeah, I mean, there's nothing wrong to say that. Oh yeah, because the people that Henry Cejudo beat, and the people that Dominic Cruz beat, there's very little crossover, so it's hard to to
Right.
parse.
If we're gonna like break that down, we'll probably do we could do the whole stream, like I said, about topics like that. But I just think that what you said about, Fight Club, and like pretty much how, now that there's no like fan interaction directly during the fight, I personally, as a hardcore fan, I love it. I know a lot of people that like really thrive in the entertainment aspect of the
Mhm.
pay-per-view or the fight night. They might be like, yeah, something's missing, and like you can argue that with like so many different sports coming back, whether it's a good thing or a bad thing. I personally, just from an analytical side of, I really really love it. Do I wish that I could go back to seeing these fights live? Of course I do. I mean, that's part of the excitement. But do I miss it that much? Personally, I'm only one person. Personally, I'm gonna say no, because I like hearing the corners. And the one thing I will bring up, which is a really really sad point before we move on to the next topic, is I know you watched the fight night that just happened on Saturday, and
Yeah.
oh my god, I have never been so sad for a fight night that went so well when I heard Robbie Lawler in his corner during the in between rounds
Right.
2 and 3. It's just,
Mm.
but like here's the thing, you won't get that vulnerability unless you actually take away the fans.
Yeah.
Like people have to understand that you will
Right.
never see moments like that, really, like
Mhm.
purely him just saying like it's like he was giving up, and like literally his cornerman were saying like, you know what, you lost a few rounds, you have to do it, it's do or die moment. Like you don't see the vulnerability really unless, like you said, we're gonna put the camera on the corner. And honestly, I don't really like, especially when there's fans there, it's really distracting. I
Yeah,
rather,
it's like static.
it was so sad. I mean, I don't.
Mhm.
Okay, obviously, like we could talk about Robbie Lawler. Like I respect him so much, as a
Mhm.
former champion. But like
Mm.
it's part of this whole topic that we brought up, because
Yeah,
you'll never
it's
see
theater.
moments like that. It's pure. It's forever in a lot of people's minds as well. Like
Mhm.
him pretty much giving up. Ugh. And that fight gives me like kind of goosebumps in a bad way. I'm sure you probably
Yeah.
felt something when you saw that, right? So
Yeah, actually, yeah, I honestly did. Yeah, and it just plays out like theater. And like in some plays, there's like ups and downs. Yeah, in the experience. Yeah, and we just see people that just they lose the flame, and now we see it like up and
I'm so
foremost.
sad. I'm sorry. It's so disheartening.
Yeah.
It's so disheartening.
Mhm.
You're right. Like, sorry to cut you off and all that, but
No wrong.
look at this. It elicits an emotion in the fans that we are like I said, we'll probably never get if we just bring back the in stadium fans. Everything
Yeah.
else is. We're like reveling. Oh, like round two, who are on round two? Like, that's what's
Mhm.
happening when there's
Yeah.
fans around in the stadium. At least, like in my opinion, like after going to many fights, live. But before I get more depressed, we will move on to the next topic,
Yeah. Oh yeah,
which is,
and
yep.
oh yeah,
Okay, go
just
ahead.
to round up. Yeah, and
Yeah,
before we
yeah.
do, and I would say MMA is obviously different than any kind of sport we've seen, and I think it revolves around combat sports. I'm sure you watched a lot of. I mean, I mean, I don't know what your the catalog of combat sports movies
Oh,
that you've seen. Like,
huge,
nice,
huge. Yeah, man. Classic
nice.
girl right here.
Awesome, awesome. So you understand that in all the fight scenes, there's rarely an audience. It's just you, me, and we're gonna fight, and or also your ensemble of
Yes.
fellow fighters or your senseis. So I
Mhm.
think that's what people get from MMA, and that's where you see people making memes of Mortal Kombat,
Mhm.
Bruce Lee movies, all that stuff. It's because there's something that's very similar to it, and one of them is the atmosphere. Sometimes you're not going to get a huge crowd, and it's just going to be the between the two fighters. And I think that's why people are on the side of, I don't really miss it that much. I like it the more intimate setting. So
Right,
I
I was
think,
gonna say you just said it perfectly. Like the intimacy between the fan, the fighter, maybe the cornerman.
mhm,
It's like we were right there in that corner, and that's it. It's us,
mhm,
the fighter, the opponent, and the cornermans. And like, I just think that we're just we're taking that, obviously, that entertainment aspect aside, but it is entertaining, I guess, for maybe fight fans, like in terms of hardcore ones like casuals, amateurs, I can't really talk about that obviously because it's a whole spectacle of someone getting knocked out. Francis Ngannou knocking out the next person, whatever. Okay, but this is not what it is. So obviously, really good point you brought there. Really great topic. I honestly kind of want to milk this a little bit more. I don't want to see the fans for a little bit. I'm just gonna say that right now. It makes me like in my game, the knowledge for MMA has literally, I feel like it's skyrocketed because
Definitely.
I'm not distracted by the stupid hollering or whatever it is the cat calls.
Right.
And it's true though. It's true. So
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh yeah, and also I think we talked about it in an episode where the crowd is really influences the referee's decision to stand up the fighters. You don't get
and
that anymore.
the judges. Oh my god. Okay, we will not. Okay, go. I mean,
All right, so yeah, let's move on.
We'll go into that later. We'll go into that maybe another stream. But like I said, before I get depressed, before I get like all riled up and stuff like that, we'll move on to the next subtitle, which is pretty much that now that we have the different, I guess atmosphere, COVID, no fans, how has it really affected the different type of promotions? We're not just talking about UFC, we're talking about Bellator, PFL, Invicta One, etc., and also boxing is coming back in combat sports. So our next topic will be competition amongst promotions. Is there a competition now? Are different promotions, obviously they're strategically maybe doing something different to kind of like attract either hardcore fans, casuals, whatever, etc. So, because obviously, like you thought of these subheadings, so why don't you take it away in terms of why you obviously thought that this was a great topic to talk about during the stream, and then we'll get into it for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. It's mostly because when I talked about earlier about something has to happen to, I guess, break the monopoly that UFC has on MMA. This could be one of them, and you'll most likely see competition from promotions where they try to capitalize on this chaotic new territory that we're going in, that everyone's going in. Bellator is starting to come in. They had, I think, one or two events, or 2 or 3 events going on, and they had to like postpone for quite a while. But it was like 3 months after UFC started, they started getting back in. And now the spotlight is on them and the UFC. Yeah, and that's why I think that's going to, I guess, encourage more eyes on them. And actually, instead of having like a David versus Goliath kind of scenario or a relationship between the two, there'll be more neck and neck as the months go on.
I would say so neck and neck. I wouldn't say neck and neck only because I feel like obviously UFC with that fan base, with being like that household name, it's going to take a lot obviously to get to neck and neck. I would say this though, everybody who knows me, they know that I'm not a whole fan of Bellator's in terms of the promoting side of the promotions. I think that they can do so much better. Now, I will say this, there have been promotions that I feel have done a little bit more, just like the little things that you didn't think about, that they're actually experimenting. So they can see if maybe we're gonna keep this, because the fans are liking this. So the one promotion that I did want to bring up is LFA. That's right, Legacy Fighting Legacy Fighting Alliance. I mean, I'm floored in a good way. They literally, their entrances, like where the fighters come up, look spectacular, just like One Championship. That's one of the things that I love about One Championship. And I remember getting lit up, like watching the fights on Friday. There are fights, by the way, on Saturday. I think it was Saturday or Friday coming up. But I just remember like them doing that. I was like, it's just like, it's so little. You think it's like nothing, but it's honestly just so, it changes the entire, like, it gets people riled up, it gets them pumped. I mean, like, people that they even haven't heard before coming out to these great songs, like being able to kind of like have their own moment right before the fight. I mean, for me,
it's right out of WWE and Japanese wrestling.
Exactly. That aspect is what a lot of people love. When they hear that music, when they see the title, of their nickname, ring name, whatever it is, and a cool little, like, kind of model-esque kind of pose, it really does do something to a fan, in my opinion. So I would say Bellator, like, you already had that, in my opinion. I don't know exactly something new that you have implemented in your game, maybe because I'm just so goddamn picky like when it comes to promotions, like actually the marketing side of it. But
Hmm.
you are correct in terms of like Bellator doing that. Like they definitely hyped up. Their trailers are so much better, in
Yeah.
my opinion. But that's the thing. Like you said, now with COVID, now without having to worry about fan attendance and all that stuff, they can literally focus on promoting this like fight night pay per view to the max. And I cannot wait to see boxing and what the hell they're going to do.
Yeah.
But without the fans, because I mean, if anyone has not watched a major boxing match, the fans are everything for
Mm-hmm.
boxing, So, I mean, I would say the competition is like for me LFA number one. Like obviously did something little, but like it definitely took them to the next level for me. PFL, it looks like obviously they're gone for the season, but that's fine. Obviously kudos to them for thinking about their fighters and obviously thinking about the safety of everyone there. People could argue, oh my god, like you just lost an opportunity. I'm like, you know what? At the end of the day, we're dealing with a pandemic, people. Like this is not
Mm-hmm.
like they just decided not to play a goddamn NFL season, okay? Like for no reason. So I mean,
Right.
what do you think? Because like, do you think that I just like I said, I personally brought up a promotion that I've been really really impressed with
Mm-hmm.
lately. Their camera angles, by the way, LFA camera angles, bravo. I mean, like I wish like every single promotion should hire that cameraman.
Yeah.
You
Yeah, and they
yeah.
even have, like, video. Yeah, they even have video for their tail of the tapes where they're just, shadow boxing. It's
Mhm.
beautiful.
Right? It's like little things that you just don't think about because you probably UFC already has something similar to that or whatever it is. But honestly,
Um,
I'm tuning into LFA. So what do you think like in terms of do some promotions stand out to you? Do you think like I said, have you seen a little bit of a difference in their promotion game? Yeah. So.
yeah, well, at least with Bellator, I noticed that their video series where they, document the fighters, before their fights, yeah, I've seen that it's a little bit better because it feels a little bit more grounded. That it really highlights the seriousness of it. At least that's what it was with the heavyweight bout. Um, yeah, and I think that with promos and probably bringing in new sponsors, I know that UFC just signed a deal with
Venom, woohoo!
uh,
Yeah. Screw
uh,
Reebok. I'm sorry, but like
I
I
know.
really love Venom.
I was like, I mean, I get it. Like, it's better with the I know whatever it is to break the Reebok deal, but I don't know if it's just gonna be the same case with the Reebok deal with the different brand name. So
I
it's
I think the shirts. You see the shirts that they're wearing? It's really really cool. I really like that better than Reebok. So I will say, and a lot of fans are actually buying that and customizing it by themselves. I
Mhm.
know that just from my friends and like talking to them. So I think it's catching on. I think it's going like to be good, or it's been better than the whole
Mhm.
Reebok deal. I haven't seen many people really like go like, oh, this is such a cool sweatshirt, or like you know what I mean?
Well, I'll give them that.
Yeah.
I think it had to do more with the sponsorship deal because it
Mhm.
really gutted the custom sponsorships that each fighter had, and that mostly had to do with the Reebok deal. And I'm just concerned that with the Venom deal, I think it's just going to be like a great value
Similar.
version, where it's like a
Yeah.
lesser, yeah,
Yeah.
it's going to be a lesser known a clothing brand. I like Venom because some of my friends in the gym use it,
Yeah.
but I just wonder if it's the change in the brand name is going to have a change in the sponsorships and the diversity of sponsorships.
Right. So like obviously if I had the title sponsorships and partnerships, I would be like, yo, Venom, will make a deal with you. You can like I want the fighters to customize their own thing because that really does play into like fans and like
Yeah.
a lot of fans. They're like, oh man, I want to buy that T-shirt from Jorge Masvidal, like like that kind of thing. And so like I feel like I haven't talked about this much because like it's been so long with the whole Reebok deal, and now, I mean, I don't know in terms of who is thinking about this, who is saying that there should be parallels between, like the Venom deal, same thing with the Reebok deal. There's a better, like I used to say, more well-known MMA brand. Okay, we'll say
Hmm.
that. That's pretty much
Yeah.
the only difference right now. Cooler shirts, cooler designs. I will say that, but
Hmm.
I think that I don't know why they would, you know what I mean. Like I don't know why they would cut that whole individualized part of a fighter and like how like fans.
Yeah, it made it like a carbon copy.
Yeah, do you know how many I've bought people shirts like specifically because that fighter customized like 10 different shirts and they're like, oh, I'm sure this person would love this for Christmas or whatever it is, right? So like I don't know why they would take that out. I mean, I get it because it's a sponsorship, so like obviously the details of that, me and you don't like obviously know about it. So like maybe that's probably what it is that we're just
Hmm.
kind of speculating. At the end of the day, we're speculating. So I mean, good point though. Really
Yeah.
good point talking about that. Bellator, like I said, I think at the end of the day, like I think me and you specifically, because I can't speak for everybody that's a fight fan, but I will say this: I got into UFC or MMA predominantly because I love the story behind a lot of these fighters. In martial arts in general, I got into it because you just see like the hardships or whatever baggage that they came with, and then like kind of like them using that and having the heart of a freaking lion going into the octagon. It's like literally the best kind of movie to see, but you're
Hmm.
seeing it, just in the octagon, and there's like you said intimacy there as well. So like for me, like kind of like if you capitalize right now, because there's no fans, you don't have to worry about ticket sales, view, whatever it is. Okay, you don't have to worry about that. You can literally just focus on telling stories of these fighters, and I think many promotions maybe like don't think it's super duper important, but oh man, I tell you, those trailers they get to me. They give me
Hmm.
goosebumps sometimes. Those countdowns or whatever it is that they're doing, they definitely get to me, and they make me kind of like someone more or hate them more. But either way, great attention for each promotion. So I agree
Hmm.
with you on that. Like in terms of different promotions kind of like capitalizing on it. So I guess
Yeah.
if you want to wrap this up before we move on to one of our last topics of
Okay.
conversation.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much what I wanted to talk about. Yeah, I think what will get each promotion over the top, or at least in competition distance with the UFC, is just bringing out what makes them special. Yeah, with either whether it's promotions or with sponsorship diversity, or with the new management. I remember seeing a video from MMA on Point where they talked about 7 things that we'll miss about Dana White. It makes me think if there's going to be a change in guard, will it cause a break in that will cause a break in the monopoly,
Oh
or
yeah,
just
in my
because of,
opinion, yeah.
yeah, or maybe because of the natural progression of 7 years. I mean, of like a few years, if he's gonna end up retiring and then giving it to someone else. So yeah, and that's what we'll
Right,
talk
there
about
you
with new
go.
management.
That's one of our last topics. At the end of the day, I think that I guess what I want to say is that promotions should really capitalize on this and not, just kind of like, as much as I love PFL, as much as I
Hmm.
respect them not doing a season this year, at the end of the day, it's honestly a great opportunity to focus on other things. And
Hmm.
number one thing that they should probably focus on is more promotion because now you can
Yes.
be more creative, and
Mhm.
like try new things. So that's all I have to say about that. And then we're gonna move on, like Danty said, about our one of our last topics of discussion for the stream, new management. So I guess now I kind of understand maybe where we're going with this. So you're saying maybe if there's a successor, in line for Dana White, Scott Coker, whoever it is, right? That
Mhm.
Tatry, like we can talk about all the different CEOs and presidents. Is that going to change the landscape of everything? I know we're obviously talking pretty long term, but it's something
Yeah.
that many people do have to talk about because I think that people need to understand that these presidents they could have aspirations to be the president of the United States. You never know that. It's true,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
Especially with some of them having like political backgrounds, like kind of like
Mhm.
advocates and all that. We will not go into that. We will not go
Mhm.
into
Right,
that.
right, right.
I know that's gonna be messy for sure, but I think that I will start off by saying I remember there were not rumors, I would say like rumblings and people like fans discussing this, saying that if Dana White decided to retire, maybe in the next 5 years or something like that, who would
Mhm.
be a good successor? A lot of people were saying Daniel Cormier because he just has such a
Mm.
heart and a freaking passion for the sport.
Yes.
He is like I just know that besides fighting, he's involved in like literally 10 million other things, and a lot of it has to do with the fight world or combat sports. He is a coach, teacher, obviously, coach in terms of outside of MMA as well. He's a
Yeah, his wrestling
father,
league in Los Angeles.
analyst. He has a show with Ariel Hawani. He's involved in a lot of things. I believe when it comes to you know like the policies and stuff like that, and maybe new policies when it comes to MMA, like kind of like reform things like that. Okay, so I'm sure like everybody knows that DC is pretty much like his nose is in pretty much everything in the world of MMA. And so, people were saying he would be a good candidate, and I'm sure he would take it on wholeheartedly. But let's just give a hypothetical. Okay, let's just give a hypothetical right now that Dana
Mhm.
White is retiring the next day, and he lo and behold, I guess like chooses a successor, and that happens to be DC, the person who unfortunately retired not too long ago. So, what do you
Mhm.
think? Do you think if DC became, the UFC president, do you think things would change, and like what kind of things
Mhm.
specifically would change
That's a
in the
good question.
organization? Right?
Yeah, that is a good question. Dang.
That's a thinker right there. Everybody
Mhm.
everybody should like
Yeah.
pick a day to think about that.
Yeah, I mean, with DC, yeah, he's very fight oriented. So yeah, I think he would be more sympathetic towards the fighters. Maybe I mean, Dana White fought like he does like fight related stuff. I think he does a little bit of combat training himself.
Yeah.
But with DC, he was in the trenches, and I think he's gonna be, if he were to take the mantle, he'll be like one of the few fighters that are CEOs. Yeah, there's gonna be one of the few CEOs that actually participated in the sport they're taking over, they're seeing over.
Mhm.
So, I mean, having that, I think there is going to be more, yeah, more sympathy towards fighters, and that will influence the business decisions. I don't know if that's going to be translated into the sponsorship diversity
Yeah, that
or
could
just like
stem.
that.
Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
and with either, I guess, talking about the fighters, their stories, promotions,
Oh,
training
wait.
facilities.
No, I
Yeah.
would love that. Trust me, I would love that for sure
Mhm.
for me.
Yeah, and also with yeah, and with training, I think with the PI, I wonder what he'll add into that. I know he has a strong wrestling background, but I wonder if he'll be more open to other kinds
Like
of
different
training.
avenues in a way, like
Yeah,
different types of opportunities. We'll say
yeah,
that.
yeah.
In a generalized term. I will say this, like I guess. Okay,
Oh
I'm
well,
gonna
this
try.
has to do specifically with different avenues of training, like with
Yes,
gymnastics
yes.
or with what something at 1 force 1 that Henry Cejudo is doing. Yeah, if there's
Right,
gonna
right,
be,
right.
if he'll
Like
look
kind of
into.
like different types of it's like related to MMA, but it's like related in terms of it helps the fighters like in a way kind of improve a certain aspect of their game, right? Always
Mhm.
improving their game. I know DC, like you said, fighter oriented. I do think that salary wise things would change. I think he would implement more money into
Yeah.
the pockets because he is a fighter himself. He knows how hard it is. He knows that you have to go up the ranks, and not everybody can be champion. Unfortunately,
Right.
not everybody can get
Mhm.
there, but everybody needs to eat. At the same time, I think he'll be more sympathetic to the tragedies that each fighter deals with. When I say that, it's because you know what I'm talking about. He
Yeah.
lost his father. He lost a child at one point. I think that he would be more sympathetic, in the empathy way,
Yeah.
and I think that it would show kind of like that he cares more. I don't want to like badmouth anybody or anything, but I just know that from a humanistic standpoint, his priority is not just about making the most money. I mean, you are UFC. Everybody knows pretty much who you are. If we talk about MMA, I think that now, like you said, with the money fight era, there's also a shift to a lot of fans and a lot of fighters starting to realize that they're not crazy respected. That just because they're not obnoxious or
Mhm.
cringy or whatever it is,
Mhm.
that they can be successful or like kind of live up to their potential. I say
Mhm.
potential because it's true. And I
Yeah.
think that if DC was the new CEO president, he would 100% be more empathetic to that. I know he would bring in more kind of foundations, like charity stuff, like things that like would help the organization kind of do like the social responsibility, the corporate responsibility thing, which is obviously a great thing. I mean, I don't know why organizations don't put more effort into this. It's so easy. It's great for business. First of
Mhm.
all, you get more respect and you get more fans in a way, or people like eyeballing you for sure, and just more
Mhm.
opportunities. I think that maybe he will. Okay, I will say this, and this is a very kind of like a lot of people might not agree with me. I think
Mhm.
he would be interested in pursuing a cross promotion event. Like,
Interesting.
yeah, I'm thinking like DC was like, oh hell yeah, like you know what I mean? Like, I can
Yeah,
see
I
his
mean, he
personality
fought
right
in
now.
multiple promotions himself.
See,
Yeah.
there I'm telling you right now. But like, I personally think like I get it. Okay, we're in a monopoly. Freaking everybody knows UFC. Every single promotion is just on a freaking scale compared to UFC. But if you think about it, I think that the UFC is making not a mistake, but they're leaving out an opportunity. You know, to kind of gravitate towards different markets. When I say markets, I also mean like global markets. I'm not just talking about everybody knows UFC, amateurs, hardcore fans, whatever it is, right? And I think that DC would be like, oh, we're gonna get it on. We're gonna like cross promote with Bellator. We're gonna cross promote with one. Like, it's going to like be like so lit. Like I can see him, just like his personality. And so I mean, like if anyone's watching this, they'll probably be like, yeah, no, probably that'd be so lit. Like a lot of people talking about, oh, Max Holloway versus Pitbull. You know, like a lot of people talking about that, right? But I don't know if we'll ever get to see it. I don't know if we're ever gonna see Davison Figueiredo versus Demetrius Johnson. Like that's something I would love
That
to
would be
see.
fun.
All right.
Yeah, that's very interesting.
Yeah.
I would, yeah, and a little bit about the cross promotion thing. I mean, that's exactly what I don't know if you follow esports at all.
Yeah, no, I guess like I had a cousin actually working in esports, so I know a little bit of it.
Okay, yeah, yeah, I follow League of Legends, and this would be just like if the LCS for people who are not familiar, they have like several branches that's specific to North America, to
Right.
Europe, China, all that stuff, etc., etc. And so it would be the equivalent of the UFC being the only thing in an MMA and not interacting with the other people. And that's why they, after every year, they have this grand tournament to combine all of the promotions into one fight.
Yeah. Yeah.
Something like that. I think that would be like, and to have the combat sports equivalent of that, it could be like a Naga for that, or like an IBJJF, or
Yeah, or like boxing. Like for me, it reminds me of boxing for sure. Like unifying
yeah,
titles and stuff like that. Just like
yeah.
it's so cool. Like, and it's still like you get the sportsmanship. You get the hardcore fans being like, who is actually the goat of this division? And then you also have the entertainment side of it because it's a goddamn March Madness, but like on crack. Like for
Exactly, yeah.
you know.
Yeah, and I think maybe that's yeah, and I think that's just because MMA is just a young sport. I think it's just going to take a little bit harder to get there, despite the new technology that boxing and all these other sports didn't have. It's still just going to get there, and unfortunately, it'll have to be because of the person who's in charge. Yeah,
Yes.
that's what the change is.
That's
Yeah,
one of
and
my
we'll see
biggest
what
like,
that.
if there's like a new, no offense Dana White, okay, but like if there was a new like president on the scene for UFC, because obviously they're the biggest promotion in terms of MMA. I would say maybe in terms of combat sports they are the biggest promotion there as well. If there was a new president, I'm like, oh man, if you do cross promotion, it is just going to change the game. And I personally just think you're not losing fans. You are literally trying to take all of the different markets in. Personally, that's just how I see it from like me having the marketing background that I have kind of thing. I don't see a lose, man. Everybody already knows you. So like you already have the upper hand. So I don't see like a win-lose, a lose-lose situation kind of thing. So I mean, the UFC, it is what it is right now. But one can only hope. One can only hope with maybe someone at the helm. So, all right, there you go. I'm just kind of lit up now. I'm just thinking about cross promotions, man. I swear.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, with cross promotions, with being loyal to rankings. I know DC was a little bit I mean, he was a little bit all over the place with that, but
Yeah.
I think maybe as a fighter, I think he'll be more sympathetic to, I guess, respecting the ranking system, and I think there will be more adherence to it as 10 will fight the 9, 8 fight the 7, or we can work things out here, and there's and things like that. What do you think about a champion that was part of a another division coming to fight the champion just like that? I mean, not
Well, I
from
mean,
under,
like we could talk about
but
Jose
within the same
Aldo. Like that's the
division.
perfect example for
Yeah.
that. We could talk about Cody Garbrandt moving to. Oh, I could go a whole.
Yeah, it's
go
kind
a
of
whole
weird.
freaking stream about that one, but
Yeah, it's weird. I wish they just beef up the flyweight division a little bit more instead of like doing
yes.
that.
Okay, first of all, LFA, amazing young flyweights. I just saw two of them, like literally last week. They were only like 25, 21 years old, and like just the potential in all of them. I just think that they should kind of, and this is going to sound weird, this might offend certain people that are like what we call UFC diehard fans. If you adapt the whole Bellator, let's bring these guys in, let's develop them, let's make them into our own cash cow. I'm telling you, like for flyweight, there's so many different flyweights you can like from different promotions. It's just like UFC, you have like the upper hand here. You literally, because all the other promotions are second to none compared to you, really, when it comes to people saying, "Oh, I don't know, Danty, if you were to, fight for a promotion right now, most likely many people would say opportunity-wise, UFC." Not necessarily for the money sometimes, but just to get your name out there and for people to know who you are, and that kind of creates like this whole umbrella of opportunities that we kind of like alluded to in a bit, like obviously talking about money fight era and all that. UFC is the best platform, honestly. No offense. Okay, I know. I think the hardcore fans are gonna bite me for this one, but it's true. You can't deny that they're the number one promotion. Right. So I mean. I agree, obviously. I think that it all comes down to who's at top. Whoever is at top, either they respect or they don't respect certain divisions. It's true. It can also go down to the women's division. Whether they respect. Okay, we're not going to talk about it. We're going to do different streams about this. But
and also there's not even a rankings in women's featherweight because there's barely any women to fill that up.
But there's so many, like, look at how Bellator, like, they literally have, like, obviously a better selection when it comes to featherweights out there. I think that the problem is for me, like, and we're going to wrap this up in a little bit just because I told you I can talk about this. Like, the problem I feel like is that there's so many female fighters out there that they belong in featherweight. But
Kayla Harrison, just for example.
Thank you. Like, that's obviously somebody I had in mind. They belong in featherweight, but it's just, obviously we can talk about the revolution that women have to literally fight for a promotion, like literally fight for a spot in a promotion. And it even doesn't even matter how good they are. They literally have to fight to establish a promotion. Michelle Watterson, her and somebody else from Bellator, I believe it was Carrie Melendez, they both said things about why not an atomweight division in the UFC or the Bellator? You gotta find, everybody says, okay, one championship has all the freaking atomweights. Like, that's not necessarily true. There's so many different fighters out there with a lot of talent. LFA, I know a lot of fighters myself that like are going from one promotion to the other, and they're trying to. It's really hard. It's honestly so kind of. It's frustrating for me to hear because it's not like they have a losing record. It's not like they're not sellable. It's not like they're not young as well, kind of thing. I don't know what the freaking criteria is, but it's just. I think that if certain promotions like the UFC took the women's division seriously, took the flyweight division actually seriously. When I say actually, I actually mean like, promoting them to the actual match, because goddamn, it's so much fun watching these flyweights like be all fast in the ring, man. I'm telling you.
Yeah. I mean, they don't even respect them to put them on a pay-per-view. They had to put them on fight nights.
Now they finally have a pay-per-view, I believe, but they're sharing it with it's so ironic. Okay, let's just
and it's only Cody. And it's the caveat, it's because of Cody, because he has the name.
And it's sad because like, why Valentina Shevchenko should have her own goddamn pay-per-view by herself. Like, no offense.
I think she will someday, because
that's the thing.
They're giving her fighters just to beef her up.
But then you think about, like, look at Amanda Nunes. She was like one of those like New Year's Eve cards, and then she gets bumped down to co-main because like, oh, Dominic Cruz is like, no offense, Dominic Cruz, but you know what I mean, like
and you love Dominic Cruz.
The bantamweights or whatever they take over, and that's not right. But we can get into a stream about that. I'm gonna get riled up at one point. We can definitely we probably just pulled like 5 different streams like to.
Oh yeah, definitely. We definitely will.
I'm gonna write this down. We're gonna text each other because especially when it comes to the women's and the flyweight division, I can talk for hours and hours. I know you can too, because I guess like for fight fans, the problem, and I'm gonna wrap this up. I think that with casuals and amateurs that are obviously super excited to get into the sport because of the fact that for COVID, this was like pretty much the only sport that was kind of broadcasting an event. Let's just be honest. Right now, they cannot get into things like flyweights or women's divisions because it's just not promoted well. And I feel like there would be a better appreciation for those weight classes, and like the misconception that fighting like women, or not even women, fighters at 105 pounds, fighters at 125 pounds are not fighters, or they're not exciting to watch. I think that from that kind of misconception would be gone if, like, so simple, if they just added a little bit of that promotion, just like spend a little bit of effort into promoting women's divisions, promoting flyweights, and really giving them the respect that they deserve, because goddamn, some of the best fights I ever watched were flyweights and women's divisions. And I'm not discriminating between the different divisions, I'm just saying,
Right.
all the different divisions are stacked, everybody knows about them. Why not focus on getting another market and opportunity? Like I said, I'm going to go into like a whole frenzy, talking about this. But you agree with me? I know you're shaking your head like she makes total sense. Like,
Yeah.
talking about this.
Yeah, I'd like to see more divisions. I think it kind of like dilutes the pool, and also dilutes the champions if they decide to hop onto other divisions and get champions there. And I think that's was the main dissension towards putting a 165 belt, and that came from Dana White himself. That it's going to dilute the entire pool of fighters if there's too many belts.
I mean, it depends, because you really have to like analyze different divisions and actually which fighters are true 165 pounders. We can talk about like Valentina Shevchenko. Oh my gosh, you should have been flyweight the entire time, but there was no flyweight division. So like we can talk about, like I said, we can talk about a whole goddamn stream about divisions another day. But I guess this does it for this first episode and installment of Dainty Thoughts. Obviously, we talked about the money fight era. That was our main topic. We also talked about fighters retiring, leaving for whatever motives that we could probably foresee in the future. That this is probably going to carry on a little bit longer. We talked about Fight Club. That's right, talking about me, you, the fighter, the opponent, and the cornerman, without the distraction of all the different fans. And obviously, the judges are not distracted as well by anything as well. We talked about that and how it changed, like, kind of like the experience for us fight fans. And then we concluded with two other topics, which, the one topic is always going to be brought up: competition between different promotions out there. What different promotions are doing right now to kind of make a name for themselves during this COVID time, and kind of like, open up more opportunities, or maybe they're not doing anything at all. We talked about that. And last but not least, obviously something exciting to think about, which is in the long term, there could be new management, when it comes to not just UFC, but like in general in the world of combat sports, and what opportunities that could lie, and maybe something like a perspective that, these, current presidents are lacking in a way, or they're not seeing, and that would benefit us as fans, and also benefit the fighters for sure. And we also pulled out probably 10 other stream topics that we could definitely talk about. So I mean, Dainty Analysis, I will give you the floor in terms of if you want to do any plugins, you want to wrap something up, if you want to have the last word, and we'll do a few, like, I guess, social media plugins and what to expect maybe in our next stream coming up.
Yeah. Absolutely. So yeah, I finally got more into like creating content, and also expanding more on topics. Yeah, we came up with a few subjects here, so I like to expand on them a little bit more in future episodes. So yeah, I'll definitely do that, and have you join in to talk about it, and others too. And also firing up the Fighting Roundtable, where I get media personalities, fighter personalities, to talk about the branch topics of the fighting world. It could be either sponsorships, viewerships, also with I guess more had to do with fighting culture itself, and see like where it's heading. And that's the majority of what I love to do in my little corner of the fighting world.
I like your corner of the fight world. That's why I love being on your podcast all the time. I mean, like, because not everybody, I guess, like, I get it. We all get swept up in the whole hurrah of, fights. Me and you both, like, oh, I'm so excited for Izzy versus Costa. Like, but we sometimes, taking a step back and really, like, pulling insights from
Yeah.
I just remember just like in our podcast alone, I had so many light bulb moments. I'm like, oh, and so I'm like kind of like opens up my mind to the different, I guess philosophical as well as theories behind the fight game in general that many people just don't talk about. So we kind of right here we uncover that. We let you kind of explore your mind when it comes to that. So I will plug in a few things. Obviously, Dainty Analysis, my co-host over here. You can follow him on Twitter at the Dainty Man right there, and on YouTube if you're watching, it's right there, Dainty Analysis. You can go ahead, subscribe, and watch the other Fighting Roundtable episodes that I was also a part of. And now we kind of just like we upped the game just a little bit. We leveled up with the software StreamYard, and we're doing some video content as well. So if you want to follow me as well, I'm at Monique Yip right on Twitter right there. And also, I do head Fights Unwrapped, which is the department head for Unwrapped Sports, our combat department head. We'll be talking more about boxing and other promotions as time goes on. But oh man, there's so much to talk about in terms of fights and headlines in general. So please give us a follow at Fights Unwrapped and at Unwrapped Sports if you are a huge sports fan and football's coming back, basketball. We actually have a stream coming up where my bets are going to be on the line as well as other people on the network. So please stay tuned for us watching the game, and a lot of shenanigans would probably ensue because of that. But for right now, this is the first installment of Dainty Thoughts, and we will definitely be back with a list of different stream topics that we just uncovered right here. So thank you everybody for joining wherever you're watching, and we will see you next time on Dainty Thoughts.
Thank you, everyone. Take care. And you